The Gospel of Gold by G.S. Lewis. Inside, Gold lingered just long enough to consider his next move. The reception desk was, at the moment, unattended, so he looked to the signs above other doorways in the hall for help. One read, Stadium Entrance, another, Ladies' Room, and a third, Bleachers. He hesitated for a moment, wondering if this facility required payment from all spectators. An instant later, he'd made up his mind. If anyone were to suddenly appear and ask, "Can I help you?" he'd have no answer. None except, "I have no business here," or, "I'm waiting for my friend to change out of his Team Rocket uniform." No, thank you. Gold ducked through the bleachers entrance and up some stairs, emerging into the upper seats after a few seconds. Below, he could see several people and Pokémon on the battlefield, stretching or going through calisthenics routines. The mixed noise of their socializing and random barks made it impossible to distinguish any particular words. He noticed that the Pokémon were nearly all white or pink in color, similarly to the walls, and their trainers were exclusively female. There were large pots scattered throughout the building, each housing a multitude of differently colored flowers. They looked fake, but he couldn't tell for sure. I'm picking up two themes from this place, he thought, choosing a seat at random. Normal-type Pokémon specialization, and going as girly as possible. Well, whatever. I shouldn't look too out of place from up here. He breathed out slowly, willing his body to unwind from the tension he had felt out in the city streets. His breath caught in his throat when one of the pink Pokémon on the gym floor suddenly pointed in his direction, causing its trainer to look up at him as well. She regarded him for only a moment, then went back to her jumping jacks. After that, he received a few more curious glances from the other trainers as they talked and exercised, but nothing further. He wondered where Marina and Jinichi were now. After about 15 more minutes, and 15 checks for his companion's return, Gold noticed a change on the gym floor. The girls recalled their Pokémon and cleared out through one of the exits, leaving only two of them still standing on the battlefield. One headed to the far end of the field, where sat a crate of supplies, and began rummaging through it. The other, sporting mostly white clothes and pink-dyed hair, placed herself on the trainer battle box, where she appeared to wait with crossed arms. After a few seconds, there was a bang of doors from the direction she was looking. Out onto the floor walked a young man wearing a straw hat and red and white colored trousers. His body language exuded confidence, but the pink-haired girl merely pulled out a stick of gum and popped it nonchalantly into her mouth. "Gym Leader Whitney!" the challenger shouted. "I've come for our rematch! This time, things will be different!" The pink-haired girl, Whitney, blew a bubble and popped her gum casually. "You think so?" she asked lightly. "How come?" "I'm the last of the Azalea reps, and bug types are our specialty." The challenger widened one of his Pokeballs and tossed it to himself in his hand. "You're about to face the second-place winner of yesterday's bug-catching contest!" "Gross," commented Whitney with a mischievous smile. She held a Pokeball in her own hand. "But you're no Mayor Bugsy. I hope you're ready for this." Gold missed any further banter between the trainers, for at that moment, he became aware that the other gym trainers were with him in the stands. They had filed in quietly behind him, but one whispered something that made another giggle softly. He turned to look automatically, and saw 5 girls lounging in the seats further above. Having twisted around, he didn't see the 2 other girls in his blind spot until they were right next to him, taking the available seats. From below, The referee girl raised 2 flags in her hand, reciting the usual pre-match mantra. "This will be a 2-on-2 battle between Gym Leader Whitney and the challenger." "Hi," said the girl next to Gold, causing him to forget the challenge below and look at her. She appeared to be somewhere between 14 and 16, as did her companion. "I'm Mika," she introduced, before looking to the other girl with her. "That's Bridget." "Hello," said Gold tonelessly, with a nod that he hoped came across as civil. Already, the nervous energy he had felt on the crowded city streets was back in full. Of all the places these girls could have chosen to sit, they had deliberately settled right here. Is this just the best spot to view the match? Gold wondered, as sweat broke out on his forehead. Or am I in their turf, and they see me as an invader? "You're that Gold guy, aren't you?" asked Mika, though it was more of a statement of fact than a question. He nodded again. "Is that your real name?" Bridget chimed in. Below, the battle had started. "Gold? Gold! Look at me! Are you nervous?" He was avoiding eye contact, but at Bridget's request, he turned to look her in the face. Her eyes were full of laughter, but it wasn't at all like the joyous kind that Spirit had. Whoever she and this Mika girl were, they knew of him, and they relished putting on a show for their audience behind. His mind blanked out. "Is that video of you real, Gold?" asked Mika, smiling toothily. "The one with the slowpokes." A flash of defensiveness rose up in him, making his face hot. Bridget observed him keenly and gave Mika a knowing look. "Of course it's not," she said in a mock scolding manner. "You should be asking him how he did the special effects." "I didn't fake anything," Gold said angrily, before he could stop himself. It was one thing for them to pick on him out of the blue, but when the truth itself was called into doubt, he drew the line. "You're speaking of a power that you know nothing about!" For a second or two, the 2 girls seemed taken aback by his impassioned response. They broke the pause with laughter, nervous and forced at first, but stronger with returning conviction. Down on the battlefield, Gold heard the referee shout, "Pincer is unable to battle! Miltank wins!" "Okay," chuckled Mika, pulling out a Pokeball and widening it. In a flash of light, one of the Pokemon materialized, a bipedal bulldog whose bodily appearance resembled a pink dress. It was coated in a thin sheen of sweat and appeared to be developing a bruise beneath its left jowl. "My poor Snubble hurt herself during training earlier," Mika explained with a showy pout. "If you really do have magical healing powers, heal her. She won't bite." Gold stiffened. "No." "Why not? Can't you do it?" Gold looked behind him once more. 2 of the girls who were spectating had their phones out, doubtlessly recording the entire confrontation. For a second, the thought occurred to him to get up and leave, and it seemed a perfectly reasonable idea. These girls were toxic. But then, how would it look when it was posted for the world to see? It would look as though his supposed fraud was being caught without his special effects. It was like a politician being asked a challenging question and revealing his incompetence by running away. On the other hand, he could cure the Snubble's minor bruising to prove himself to their doubting faces. But what would that actually show them? That he was just a gumball machine of healing power to be dispensed whenever anyone wanted it? Until this moment, he had only used his life-giving ability to do good, helping those in need. But now, for the first time, he saw that the world itself had taken notice. This use of power would not be for the sake of good, but for entertainment. As such, it might not even come at his call. These thoughts occurred to Gold in the span of a second. He had never before thought so quickly and deeply, and he even had time to wonder where this flash of insight came from. But the moment was passing, and he needed to act. He gave Mika a reproachful look. "We both know your Pokemon doesn't really need it. Even if she did—"
Look out!
shrieked one of the girls from above. Gold heard the sharp whistling noise of a heavy object moving at high speed. He leapt out of his seat, just as a humanoid shape smashed into the row below him. It was a grayish-blue creature that he recognized on sight, due to its mainstream fighting type appeal, a Machop. Apparently, Whitney's Pokemon had somehow hit it hard enough to send it flying into the spectator arena. The girls screamed in unison and clambered up the aisle to escape, but the Machop wasn't moving. Gold leaned over the supports and surveyed the creature, his initial shock giving way to concerned curiosity. One glance at the unnatural angle of Machop's head made it clear that its neck was broken.